Child abuse, a phrase that people know is wrong, yet it still happens daily. When you see a scar or bruise on a child, you don't think, oh my gosh, they've been beaten or abused. Most of the time we think, oh, they're kids. They fell down playing. It was just an accident. Well, how many times do you think we have assumed that it's just an accident when it actually could have been the physical after effect of child abuse? Child abuse has consequences for children, families, and society that last lifetimes. Let me give you a scary statistic. More than 5 children die every day due to child abuse. If that doesn't hit home, I don't know what will. People claim that child abuse only affects the child or the abuser. Some people argue that the child only suffers physical abuse. As I speak, you will see that this is not the case. Child abuse affects children in many ways. It doesn't just affect them physically, it affects the child psychologically and behaviorally as well. According to Alistair Lamont, if a child was abused as an infant, they tend to have trust issues as they get older. This is psychological abuse. A lot of people think, babies don't know that they're being abused because they can't do anything for themselves. Babies know if they are loved or if they're being mistreated. That's still psychological abuse. Behavioral abuse is what makes a child act up, act out, or even hide. It's changes in behaviors to cope with a situation. According to my psychology teacher, Miss Ramona O'Malley, children that suffer behaviorally sometimes act out to get the type of attention they think makes them feel wanted, due to not getting enough of attention or even getting the wrong attention from home. You should see now, just because physical abuse is the type that you see with our eyes doesn't mean that it's the only consequence of child abuse. All types of abuse that are mentioned here are just as bad for the child. Physical abuse consequences leave scars that we can see, but behavioral and psychological consequences can be just as life-threatening. Child abuse affects not only the children, but the family as well. People say all the time, this is my business and it only affects me. That is not true at all, especially with a topic such as this. Families are put under a lot of stress when having to help or raise an abused child. Whether the abused child is a baby or a teenager, they have all suffered abuse. Families with child abuse suffer many risk factors: poverty, unemployment, lack of education, more intimate partner violence, family disorganization, and negative interactions. Parents or caregivers suffer risks of mental health problems, substance abuse, and stress, especially stress. All of these examples bring stress to the families, parents, and even more stress on the child. This stress can pull to these abusive behaviors due to being upset or mad. If the parents are upset and mad, and then they take it out on the child because of their emotions. Abusive families usually start with a long lineage of abuse that has been passed down from generation to generation. Abuse doesn't just go away. No matter how much we want to believe that, it doesn't just go away. It normally has an effect on families, and that people and children learn where people and children learn that abusive behavior and keep it in the family. Child abuse affects society as a whole. People think what they do in their 4 walls of their home doesn't affect the community or society they live in. But there's a newsflash for you. It affects the society too. The society or community, most of the time from the outside, watches these children grow up, and sometimes we may even wonder, what on earth, if a child does something off the wall behaviorally, we might be, what in the world are they thinking? They're going crazy. What's going on? It starts with child abuse. A child that hides and holds in emotion will crack, just like we will at some point when we get angry. Some choose suicide, others choose to take it out on anyone else. This leads me to the statement, as the child is abused, it learns this behavior. Therefore, according to national child abuse statistics, about 30% of abused children will grow up to abuse their own children one day. You may be thinking, well, this still goes back to family or society. But think about the 59% of children who get arrested and are in juvenile prisons due to trying to find attention that they are lacking at home. But they are thriving on their own attention. What about teen pregnancy? This is also an observed behavior of most abused children. The society has to pay for these cases of child abuse. National child abuse statistics say it costs society about $24 billion for these cases, and that was in 2008. It's 2012. It is said that the child abuse cases have risen 38% since 2008. Child abuse starts with the abused child, affects the families, and then finishes with society. Sorry to bust your bubble, but child abuse is a major problem that is overlooked and not reported most of the time. Child abuse has consequences for the children, family, and societies that last lifetimes. Lifetime seems to sound like a long time, but if a child learns abusive behavior and abuses their own child, who is going to stop this cycle? Are you going to stand up and say it's wrong and it affects many more people and leaves many more scars than what we are seeing physically? Or are you going to just sit there and let it happen?